The content of this podcast has not been evaluated by Health Canada or the FDA. It is educational in nature and should not be taken as medical advice. Always consult a qualified medical professional to see if a diet, lifestyle change, or supplement is right for you. Any supplements mentioned are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. Please note that the opinions of the guests or hosts are their own and may not reflect those of Advanced Orthomolecular Research Incorporated. Welcome to Supplementing Health, a podcast presented by Advanced Orthomolecular Research. We are all about applying evidence-based and effective dietary, lifestyle, and natural health product strategies for your optimal health. In each episode, we will feature very engaging clinicians and experts from the world of functional and naturopathic medicine to help achieve our mission to empower people to live their best lives naturally. Thanks for tuning in to Supplementing Health. Did you know as many as 6% of the U.S. consumers say that they are vegan, according to global data in a study conducted in late 2020? That is actually a 500% increase compared to just 1% that it was in 2014. So today I'm joined by Nancy Clark, registered dietitian and board-certified specialist in sports dietetics, to discuss how athletes can effectively follow a vegan diet. Welcome, Nancy. Thanks for joining me today.
Well, it's my pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
So a lot of people have a perception around a vegan diet when it comes to athletics and performance. Does eating or following a vegan diet or a vegan lifestyle hinder athletic performance at all?
There are two kinds of vegans, and for one of them, the vegan diet might very much hinder their performance, and for the other one, it would not. So let's just sort of start by looking at the two kinds of vegans. One kind of vegan is someone who has knocked off the beef or the meat and has replaced it with beans, lentils, tofu, plant proteins, and they're eating a very balanced diet with adequate protein and nutrients. The vegan who has knocked off the beef but hasn't added back the beans is in trouble. Very often that's with an eating disordered athlete who goes, oh, I'll be vegan because then I don't have to have milk or cheese or meat, or it's just one more way to eliminate a food group. They both can eat a very well-balanced diet that supports athletic performance, but one of them doesn't.
Okay, so then are there special considerations for vegan athletes when it comes to diet that they should be taking into account before, during, and after a workout?
Well, vegan athletes, like any person, needs to be getting adequate protein. And when you're an athlete, you're either fueling up or you're refueling. And you want to make sure that you're eating some protein-rich food every 4 hours. So like if you have breakfast at 7-ish, lunch at 11-ish, a second lunch, I changed that word snack to second lunch at 3-ish, dinner at 6 or 7-ish. And so if you have a timeline and you're eating every 4 hours and you have some protein in each of those meals, each of those food buckets, then you will be likely to get the protein that you're needing to build and repair your muscles. But then it comes into how much protein are you getting in. And I find a lot of my clients read food labels and they'll say, oh, this has like 10 grams of protein, or this has 2 grams of protein, and they don't know what the context is. And so a good target for most athletes is somewhere between 20 and 30 grams of protein 4 times a day. You can more precisely plan it out according to your body weight. I'd be looking at probably at least a half to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And so if, as an athlete, you want to make sure that you surround your workout with food. And so you're either fueling up or you're refueling. And with that, you want to, have some protein to build and repair muscles, grains to fuel muscles, some protein carb combinations. And if you're a vegan, you can say, if you have some hummus, you can easily get, your protein carb combination is something like that, or beans and rice. But if you're just having a apple because you're a vegan who's not really a vegan, then you wouldn't be getting the protein that you're needing. So I look a lot at when a person is exercising, and are they doing a good job of fueling up and refueling surrounding their workout with food, and making sure that they have some sort of protein-rich food, around the time of the workout, either before or after.
So when you say that most people that read a label for the amount of protein is included, that they don't understand the context, what kind of context would you need to know around that?
Or what their protein budget is. How many grams of protein do they want in each meal? And so if they're looking for, at least 20 grams of protein in the meal, and they say, oh, my oatmeal's got lots of protein in it. It's got like 6 grams of protein in it. It's like, no, 6 grams isn't 20 grams. So it just helps to know what target you're shooting toward. And on the other hand, there's some people that take these, they have eggs for breakfast. Well, if they're vegan, if they're a vegetarian, they might have eggs for breakfast. But if they're vegan, maybe they're just having, like say, some oatmeal with almond milk. And that would be very low in protein. And they might read a label and think that, oh, the 8 grams of protein that they just ate, that's great. But if they know they should be targeting like 20 to 30 grams, then they can realize it's like, oh, maybe I should have some soy milk, and maybe I should put some peanut butter in my oatmeal and boost up their protein to help hit that target.
So what are some of the best sources of vegan protein for building and maintaining muscle mass when you're working out?
Like little babies that can't tolerate dairy milk, they give them soy milk formula, because soy has really high quality protein in it. And unfortunately, many vegans these days are having almond milk, which is really almond juice, or oat milk, which again is oat juice, and it's just lower in protein, and it doesn't have all the essential amino acids that are needed for building and repairing muscles. So for vegan athletes, like say, I would recommend soy as an excellent high quality protein. But you can take, if you eat a variety of foods, all plant proteins have a variety of different amino acids in them. So they can have beans and rice, they can have bread and peanut butter, they can have, different, as long as you're getting a variety of different foods, the chances are that you will mix and match the right amount of amino acids over the course of the day. And if you're really trying to bump up the quality of your protein, I would look at soy as being an excellent source, be it soy milk or tofu, seitan. But you would get a better bang for your buck with that type of protein. And a lot of people think, oh, isn't soy bad for you? And it's like the latest research really shows no, that soy is a very high quality protein and an excellent choice, and it's not related to cancer, and it protects against heart disease and anti-inflammatory. So I don't hesitate to recommend soy to people.
Does a vegan diet change your recovery times or affect recovery times?
Well, if you're a vegan who's just knocked off the beef and hasn't added back the beans, I mean, there are a lot of vegan athletes that are living on a lot of apples and salads and, fruits and vegetables and maybe some grains that are having a very low protein vegan diet. And for them, the recovery will be far less. Like I've talked to people that come to me and they just feel like they're achy and sore and they don't recover well. And it's because their protein intake is really quite low. But once they start adding, more nuts and peanut butter and beans and, sources of protein, they go, wow, do I feel better? And I'm performing better. And, oh, I think I got a little bit more muscle now. So it definitely, a low protein vegan diet can certainly take its toll on recovery and highly increase the rate of injuries.
Are there certain foods that should be included then regularly in the diet to help ward off muscle cramps and tightness?
Well, muscle cramps, well, if a muscle is malnourished, it probably might cramp. I don't necessarily put muscle cramps and vegan diets together. They could come together, but I look at cramping more as a nervous system malfunction, more so than a protein deficiency malfunction. But for any athlete who has a cramp, you make sure you're well hydrated. Do you have some sodium in your diet? Are you exercising on empty and have muscles that are depleted and exhausted? So I look for many things when it comes to muscle cramping, but not necessarily if they're vegan or meat eating. I would recommend doing a better job of fueling and maybe add some stretching in there. And sometimes, people think that magnesium is related to muscle cramping. And, if you're a vegetarian who's eating lots of, leafy green vegetables and nuts, then you should be getting magnesium that you're needing. Muscle cramping is muscles that are tired generally fatigue. Muscles that are tired are more likely to have muscle cramps. And if a vegan is, the eating disordered vegan who's underfueled and they have poorly fueled muscles, they might be more likely to cramp. But that's not necessarily related to the vegan diet. It's just related to being more underfueled, and that could make the difference there.
Okay, so you've mentioned eating disordered athletes many times, and I know at one point you tweeted about a study that said as many as 18% of male athletes suffer from an eating disorder. How can you determine if someone is changing to a new diet, like a vegan diet, based on how they feel versus an eating disorder?
Yeah. The vegan athlete with an eating disorder tends to be very rigid and maybe be over exercising, compulsively exercising, and very over the top healthy with their food choices, and maybe often on a pedestal because, they're vegans, and somehow that makes them superior or whatever. An eating disorder is a psychological diagnosis, actually. If the vegan is under eating and just, like I say, they've chopped off all sorts of different kinds of foods. Maybe they don't have any pasta. Maybe they don't eat bread because they think that carbs are fattening. Maybe they don't eat fats. They don't have any oil in their, they just steam everything. So there'd be other foods that have been, nixed out of the diet other than just animal proteins. I would like to say, I would look at, are they eating pasta? Because a lot of people with eating disorders just assume that carbohydrates are fattening, which they are not. And that's one of the first things to go.
For vegans, are the ratios of carbs to protein that should be consumed different compared to non-vegan athletes?
Well, protein needs are based on body weight. They aren't done percentage of calories, because like 15% of 1,000 calories is a lot different than 15% of 3,000 calories in terms of grams of protein. So like I say, protein needs are based on your body weight. And I'd be looking at least 0.5 to 1 gram of protein. When vegan athletes have a higher protein need than meat-eating athletes, because they just need about 10% more plant protein. So, if I'm working for vegan athletes, I'd be looking, I say probably 0.7, 0.8, maybe 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And I look to make sure that that's evenly distributed throughout the day. But when it comes to fueling up and refueling, the need for carbohydrate is higher than the need for protein. So in general, you want 3 times more carbs than protein. So if you're eating lots of beans and rice or lentils, you get a wonderful, carb protein combination that's great at fueling the muscles. But I don't want people counting macros and we don't eat carbs and protein and fat. We eat food. So people should be looking at their plate to see, is there, is protein or protein-rich foods on like a third of the plate? Are there grains a third of the plate? Are there fruits or veggies a third of the plate? So I would look more at the plate than at percentages of carbs and proteins and fats.
Okay, so with the new exposure of Beyond Meats or these meat alternatives that have been becoming more popular and popping up all over the place in different fast food restaurants and whatnot, do you feel that they provide sufficient value as far as a protein replacement goes, or should people be looking more at, like you were saying, incorporating more beans and things like that rather than these pre-made meat alternatives?
Yeah, the meat alternatives, I think, offer high quality protein. This highly processed, ultra processed food really doesn't fit my concept of a vegan diet, which I think of being as more nuts and berries and beans and brown rice. But there's a time and a place for everything. And I think lots of times when people go to a barbecue and everybody else has had barbecue beef, they feel like they can fit right in if they have their Beyond Burger. So nutritionally, is it healthier? No. I mean, it's highly processed. It's got a lot of sodium in it. It's got saturated fat in it. I wouldn't say it's the best choice around. But there's not a good food or a bad food. There's a balanced diet and an unbalanced diet. So we can't just look at one food out of context. It's important to look at not the food, the meal, the day, but the week, the month, the year. And if someone's eating a lot of the ultra processed, meats, then it might be worth a conversation. We have to, the goal is to eat a little bit closer to the earth, a little bit more natural, less processing, save the planet, that sort of stuff.
Okay, and then some vegans fall into a trap of familiarity when it comes to their meal prep or their weekly meals. Do you have tips on ways to ensure people are getting enough variety in their diet when shifting to a vegan lifestyle?
Yeah, it's very easy to eat a repetitive diet because it saves a lot of decisions. In Australia, they did a campaign for people to eat 35 different kinds of foods in a week. In America, most of us eat the same 10 to 15 foods all the time. So I might ask, a vegan athlete to actually keep track of how many different foods they're eating and just number them and see how far they get. And if they know the goal is 35 and they're having 10, yes, they get the nutrients that are in those 10 foods, but they're missing out on other nutrients and from other foods. As long as the 10 are like the best, then, that can alter the conversation a little bit. But in general, the more variety, the better.
Are there any specific supplements that you often recommend for your vegan clients?
Well, a supplement is to supplement healthy eating. And my goal as a dietitian is to teach people how to get the nutrients that they need through the foods that they're eating. That said, the nutrients that are a challenge for some vegans to get might be calcium, but they can get calcium if they're having soy milk or tofu, or if they're eating a lot of bok choy, a lot of broccoli. They might be low in iron and zinc, which, red meat is undoubtedly the best sources of iron and zinc. And iron is particularly important for athletes because it helps to, transfer oxygen from the lungs to the working muscles. And so when athletes become anemic, they get tired very easily. Cooking in a cast iron skillet is a way to boost up the iron intake. Yes, there's some iron that's in like spinach, but it tends to be, the iron that's in plant proteins tends to be poorly absorbed. So an iron supplement, if an athlete is anemic, would be recommended. Vitamin D, if people are living, north of Atlanta in the wintertime, then vitamin D between Halloween and Easter can be a very good idea. So to get back to your question about supplements, ideally a supplement supplements healthy eating, and a vegan can get what they're needing. B12 is the obvious vitamin that might be difficult for them to get, but if they get if they buy foods that are enriched with B12, or if they buy some nutritional yeast that they can get, again, they can get what they're needing, but do they? That's always the question. Yes, you can get what you need, but do you? Are you being responsible? And if someone chooses to be vegan, they really need to choose to be responsible with their food choices.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for chatting with me today. If any of our listeners wanted to work with you, what is the best way to get a hold of you?
I have a website with information. The website is nancyclarkrd.com. So that's NancyClarkrd, as in registered dietitian, nancyclarkrd.com. And I also have a sports nutrition guidebook, which is called Nancy Clark Sports Nutrition Guidebook. And so that's readily available from places that sell books or libraries. And that has a section on protein needs of athletes, how to get that protein if you're a vegan. And it's not just protein, but the amino acid leucine is also critical, because that's what really triggers muscles to grow. And leucine, if you go from being a meat eater to a vegan, you sort of cut that amino acid in half through your dietary needs. So like I say, it's not just total protein, it's the quality of the protein. And my sports nutrition guidebook would have more information on how to get high quality plant proteins that can help you be the best athlete that you can be.
Great. Well, again, thank you so much for chatting with me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Supplementing Health. For more information about our guests, past shows, and future topics, please visit aor.ca/podcast or aor.us/podcast. Do you have a topic you want us to cover? We invite you to engage with us on social media to request a future topic, or email us at marketing@aor.ca.